Take a breath. It's finally here. Welcome to the first official episode of Music on the Brain. Thank you. We know you're so excited to be here. I know this was highly anticipated and a ton of people are ready to listen. Totally get it. So it's about time we talk why music means so much to us. Again, I'm Larkin, the creator of this podcast, and luckily I'm co-hosted by my wonderfully talented boyfriend, Doug. But I wanted to welcome every listener before they get to know more about Doug and me. I started this podcast because I felt like I lost a part of myself when I stopped performing. But I found it again after listening to Rex Orange County's The Shade. So now we're facing the music, literally, and talking about what I loved and why I still love it. We get to talk through it with co-host and musician Doug and my beautiful mama, Paula Sue. That said, let's dive right into a conversation with two normal people, Doug and Larkin, talking about how much they love music and how it made them even closer. What is like your earliest memory to music, and kind of where do you see yourself when you were younger and like music fitting into that, and even kind of growing into the performer you are now?
Well, that's an interesting question, Larkin. I think really young, I don't think I latched on to music like a lot of people, that are my age now and have like music's a big part of their lives. Like they latched onto it early. Like they were all like, listening to music, going to like music practices. Like I think I had kind of more of a slow burn. I think some of my earliest memories with music are just driving around in the car with my family and like whatever, my mom or my dad had in the stereo at the time, because we still used CDs back then. And just like whatever music we were listening to while we were just driving to swim practice or to school or, going out to get groceries. So I have some memories. I think some of my first memories I really have of like, whoa, this is music, came from then. Like, for example, there was a Broadway show, Jersey Boys, that came out in like the early 2000s. So my parents got the CD of it. And there's this song that goes, and I remember Maddie and I would try to come in. Maddie's my sister. We'd try to come in at the same time when they first started singing, and we would just do that like every single time. My mom loved it, and it's just stuff like that. Like we would just be encouraged to like keep singing in the car, and like I have beautiful memories with that stuff. So, and then it kind of just picked up from there. Like I remember I learned so many things in that car driving places with my parents. Like I remember hearing the Beatles the first time.
Oh wait, can you just talk about that?
Yeah, so, I mean, there were, like, some Beatles songs in shuffle on the CD, but I remember the first time I really latched onto it was when I Am the Walrus came on. I was like, I remember we started playing, and my dad started singing to it. I was like, what is this? Like, I was like, I really like it. Like, I am the walrus, chill. Like, I'm like, what is he even saying? And then my dad started, like, telling us some of the mythos, like, yeah, it's a shame, like, two of them just died because George Harrison died, like, early 2000s. So yeah, it was stuff like that. And I remember just like, you don't really know who they are or what it's about, but like there's just this sense of like magic behind it that you pick up on even if you don't know the story. So I love that about music. And then I remember that ever since. I remember pulling into our driveway when I was a little kid and listening to that song. And then I would sing it as I was walking my dog Bogey around the neighborhood. I would sing it to myself. So stuff like that.
For a lot of us, in high school specifically, I mean, this is the time where we're all growing into the people that we think we want to be. College is the time that we are almost to the people that we want to be. And then adult life is just figuring it out as you go. But I think it's really interesting because music for me was the outlet that's the only way I could express myself in high school. I mean, I was a soccer player, but I felt like a fraud. I wasn't this crazy good soccer player that was going to make it to college and, play D1 or even D2 or D3. Like, I wasn't going to get there, but I still loved soccer, but I couldn't thoroughly enjoy it because I knew that a part of me wasn't perfect at it. But with music, like, I mean, I've told Doug this a bunch of times, but it's like, there was not a part of me that even thought for a second that I was bad at music. And it wasn't even the thought of me needing to be perfect at it. It was like, music's music. Like, I don't know why that this thought ever went away from me. Now in college, I always think that I have to be perfect to enjoy music or even partake in it or play with it. And even like older people who are a part of community bands are the pinnacle of like, just play because it's fun. But for me, in high school especially, and then going into college, like music was just a way for me to hang out with my friends and like find out who I was, because half the time songs have lyrics that talk about things that we can't talk about yet. It's like, oh, those are the words I've always been looking for. And I think that's beautiful now in your life. You get to write these songs where you can talk about, like, you released a few albums or an album, and a song off of it is just like figuring out as you go. It's called Working Through the Dark, or Through the Dark. But like it's all about just like you're lost, but you're gonna figure it out at some point.
Yeah.
And I just think high school is such an important time to go through the like revelations with music, because that's a time where we're not mature enough yet to have the words to talk about it. But then we find these songs, older songs even, because when we were in high school it was 2015 through 2019. For you it's 2014, I guess, through 2018. And it's like that was a time where music was like kind of bad. So we had to either choose to find these bands or go with the oldie stuff that our parents listened to.
Yeah.
So I just think it's really interesting that like you use it as a form of expression, because I did. I used it as a form of expression, whether it was through instrument, or for me I was also a part of, show choir and musical and things like that. So it's like I just have a lot of music connected to when I was a child, and then to when I was growing up, and then even now. Yeah. So I think that's awesome that you were able to grow up with it too. I
think it's so beautiful the way you said it. Like music is like just perfect. Like it's something that no matter what, it's not like I'm not good at it. Like I'm not good at this. I really believe that like the most perfect things in the world are music and mathematics, because it's like those are two things that we did not invent. We kind of just like discovered. Like humans were banging on, rocks and stuff, and eventually drums. It's like we discovered rhythm, and then we discovered harmony throughout the years. So I think it's just one of those things that just exists. It's like love. It's like you just like find these things, and you find the ways that the human like spirit and soul and the way our minds work just can connect with them. And sure, there are some songs that are, not that, amazing, but that doesn't mean that
to your ear.
Right. Yeah. But it's amazing to somebody else. And I spent a lot of time like my freshman year of college, because my roommate was really into trap music and rap music. I'm like, this is crap. But then, a year later, I kind of thought about it, like, what Nav and Travis Scott is doing to my roommate Akil is exactly what the Beatles and Queen and like all these people are doing for me. So it's like music is just a beautiful, perfect thing that allows people to relate to each other and experience feelings and, get things out in the world and just bring people together. It's a beautiful thing. Like music should never be a competition. It should be a way to unify people. And I think it's so beautiful when certain artists and certain songs can do that.
That's beautiful. I love how you said that. That's exactly like that's I couldn't put it any more perfect. So Doug, I wanted to teach you something about music. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. So before I read this from Psychology Today, this article was published on my 21st birthday, which was when Doug and I met, September 14th, 2021. But that's when we met the first time.
That was when we kind of like saw each other for the first time. And we said hello for the first time.
Yes. So I just thought that was very serendipitous.
Yeah.
Okay. But so according to Psychology Today, implicit memory is a form of classical conditioning. An event, an emotion, and a song get connected through implicit memory. When a piece of music is paired with a very emotional event, it can be an effective cue to bring back the strong emotion that was felt at that moment. And when I read that, I thought it had a lot to do with this next interview with my mom about her poppy. But Doug, I wanted to know what you thought about that.
Well, I think that is so true, because there have been so many times for me where I've had just like I've experienced something, whether it's heartbreak or whether it's nostalgia or just a sense of like change, and I can still recall like which songs like were there with me at that moment, without a doubt. I remember driving down McKean Road and just like listening to ELO when I was like 16 and thinking like, whoa, what's going on?
Well, I'm glad you got to listen to something that sticks with you like that. I mean, I still have songs. I think it's just really what this statement says is that like when a piece of music is paired with a very emotional event, it can be an effective cue. I think that's really awesome. Like just listening to a song. But kind of bringing it back to the next interview that the listeners are going to listen to would be the discussion with my mom about her father, my poppy. And the only way that he could communicate at one point was through song, which they'll figure out. But that brings me to another statement that I want to teach you about. Are you ready? So, in an article by Harvard in 2015, it reads, listening to and performing music reactivates area of the brain associated with memory, reasoning, speech, emotion, and reward. 2 studies found that music doesn't just help retrieve stored memories, it also helps us lay down new ones.
Wow.
I know. I love that.
I think that is beautiful.
Right?
And I totally agree. Because why would you remember them in the first place? Like, why do I recall being on the bus in 5th grade? I listened to boom, 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 boom. Like,
no, you would also fall asleep. Oh, no. Where is the love?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think those are so important. It's so beautiful that music can kind of put those little pinpoints in your life.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
I just think how crazy is it that at one point, like, for example, when you watch American Idol, a lot of the contestants who come to sing might have a stutter or have Tourette's or something. But whenever they sing, it's just like the most beautiful rendition of a song. And it's because it's just using a completely different part of your brain. But then to like lay down new memories with a song, like, I mean, we've experienced it firsthand.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I could talk about music all day long.
Me too. Let's do it.
But so leading into, enjoy the interview with my mom about her life with music and my poppy. I want to ask you what music meant to you growing up and kind of how it's changed in your life since then.
Wow. So music growing up, when I was a young child, some of my first memories are on Saturday mornings. There was a oldies station that my parents would listen to in the kitchen, and they would dance and sing. And then Sunday mornings was polka hour on the local radio station, and that was always very common in our household, is polka dancing on Sunday mornings before we went to church or when we got home from church and we were making Sunday dinner. So music kind of always stuck with me from there. My dad sang in the barbershop quartet, and my love for music just kind of started from there. I was very lucky to start playing the flute when I was in 4th grade, and I was given lessons. And I started at band at a very young age, started singing in chorus, and that just went on through high school, and music became part of what I did every day. I can't remember a time when it wasn't a part of my life, and it became, like Larkin said, very calming to me. That was always a go-to, whether it be oldies that made me remember memories in the kitchen, or fun times with my friends, or band shows, or we listened to the radio on the band buses coming home from football games. It just was something that was always fun and brought me to some of my closest friends still to this day. So,
do you have any songs? So the idea of this podcast is talking about music that brings us back to a core memory and the relation to our minds and music together as a whole. So do you have any songs that bring you back to a good memory, a bad memory? Or is there a song where every time you listen to it, it brings you like straight back to maybe like the 80s or like peak high school time, or maybe like sometime of when you were in college? Or like, is there one song where it's like you can see where it is in your head?
Oh, there's not just one song. There's multiple songs. I can remember when I hear In the Garden, which is a gospel song, I visually go back to my grandma Larkin singing that in church. And I would sing in the church choir with her. That was a way that we bonded together. And I see her singing because that was her favorite song. Or with my grandparents at the church in Leechburg that they went to. And songs were always very important to my mom. And there was, when my grandfather died, How Great Thou Art, my cousin Michael sang that song and couldn't get through it because that was my grandfather's favorite song. But that's when I hear that song, that's the memory I go back to. Is it sad in some ways? Yes. But is it comforting in other ways? Of course.
It's crazy how you talk about how Grandma Larkin and Nanny, which was my mom's mom, my grandma, my nanny, they, a lot of our memories are tied with church and church songs. And my nanny was very good at taking all of us to church. That was her place. But her heart was as big as can be. And that's where she took care of people. So we would go and take care of people with her. But a lot of songs bring me back to spending those days with my nanny. And so I think it's very interesting that you had that same relationship with your grandma. Or Grandma Larkin is who I'm named after. It's not really related to us, but is. Whole thing.
Another story.
We could get into it on another podcast episode. But that's it's really cool to see that I didn't mimic your life, but I mirrored it in a sense.
Yeah, definitely.
Music has a lot of times said the things that I didn't know how to say in words. It's taken over the things that I didn't know how to say, and when I didn't have the voice to speak. And I think that's a perfect segue into asking about how Poppy, which is my mom's dad, Donald, many people knew Don,
He was
names.
just Poppy to everybody.
Poppy. He, Mr. T.
Mr. T.
Yep. He had a stroke at what age?
Oh, wow. It was right before I was 19 at the time, 19 or 20. So he had just celebrated an early 50s this birthday. He was not very old at all. And he suffered a stroke. We were very lucky in the fact that he didn't have any physical damage other than his speech was affected. He had trouble remembering what words he wanted to use. He would call us the wrong names.
He did till he passed away.
Right, that was just a given.
Nathan, Lauren, Larkin.
Yeah, I mean, I got called the dog's names. He would sneeze and bless himself. I mean, it was just... But if in the perspective of having a stroke, if that's the only problem that there was, we were 100% blessed with that because he was still there. It also led to the fact that he ended up retiring from work early because of that. And we were extremely blessed because he was the babysitter for all 4 grandchildren. And I could not have asked for anything better in this life than for my children to have the relationship with their grandparents that they had. And I know that they wouldn't take anything for granted as well. So in order to help Poppy, he would get frustrated if he couldn't remember words. We were always told, don't give him the answers. If you ask the question, make him say the words. But then we had a therapist, a speech therapist that got involved, and we would go to church, and when he would struggle speaking, he could sing every word of a song and have no problems and remember every bit of it. So we asked the person, why is this happening? And they said, well, when you sing, you use a different part of your brain, and that part wasn't damaged. So it became part of how we communicated with him. If we needed him to answer a question, we would sing him the question and he would sing the answer back. And it relieved so much frustration, but it helped him in his therapy and then not worry so much about when he had to answer, especially when he was around us. So music saved him as well, and, in time his speech got better and he remembered things better. But singing, it always came back to singing. And there was nothing more to say than that.
Okay, Doug.
Yes.
So we've had 2 very good conversations kind of happen within this podcast, and I think it's amazing. And one good one coming up in the next episode. But all this to say, we're wrapping up our first ever episode, And, this is the part where we're supposed to say, see you next week, and we can't wait to, see you for the next episode. But I want us both to end with something more meaningful. So to close out the success of our first episode, let's finish out with our favorite music lyric ever and why.
Perfect. Should I go first?
Yes.
So my favorite music lyric of all time, it's kind of hard to pick because I love so many songs and so many different lyrics of all different types. But the first one that jumps to my head is from The Long and Winding Road by the Beatles, and it goes, "The wild and winding night that the rain washed away has left a pool of tears, crying for the day. Why leave me standing here? Lead me to your door." Or no, show me the way. Why leave me standing here? Show me the way. I think that's how it goes.
Why do you like it?
I think that I don't think I can necessarily understand that feeling because I've never had like that kind of feeling with someone where it's like it's over and it's so sad and it's like just an overwhelming sadness feeling. But what I do love about really good lyrics is like it invokes like a visceral just emotion inside of you. And I remember the first time that I really heard that song and I listened to the lyrics, I was like, wow, these are amazing. And I remember exactly where I was reading them. I was in the hub, like main room with all the chairs with the 2 TVs.
In State College.
In State College.
Because we both met at Penn State.
Yep. And I remember just sitting there and reading it. I was like, wow. And that was one of those songs where I found it and I listened to it like nonstop for a week.
Yeah.
So I think it just perfectly encapsulates that point in my life. And I love it.
Perfect.
What about you, Larkin?
So something about me is for a long time, the only artist I would ever say I like truly loved was Tori Kelly. I still think, I have grown so much in my music. So like this was like a coming of age artist for me. And what's really cool is like she's releasing new music now. But I'll just say she's just like my number one artist, I think. Like how yours is the Beatles, mine is Tori Kelly. But when she released her album in 2019, it was the summer of 2019. And that was past the year my nanny had passed away. It was March 2019 my nanny passed away. So there's this song called Your Words by Tori Kelly. And the part she's singing about how her grandfather passed away. So my favorite lyrics are heaven rejoices, saints lift their voices as they welcome you home. The streets are now gold for you, and God is now holding you, and you'll never be alone. And even just saying it now, I talked a lot in this podcast about, with my mom at least, about going to church with my nanny and how my mom went to church with her grandma and just stuff like that. So I think that lyric just makes me think about my nanny every single time I listen to it. And it gives me a sense of peace. So that's why.
Oh, I love that. I remember when you first texted me that song.
Yeah, that was Tori Kelly was one of the people I used to flirt with Doug, so.
I put in that work.
Yeah.
I remember the first time Larkin texted in the group chat we were in. She said, I really love Tori Kelly. And I just woken up. I went and I listened to a random Tori Kelly song. I texted. I was like, this song's so good. So, yeah.
Well, with that is the finishing touches to the first episode of Music on the Brain with Doug and Lark. So thank you for everyone for listening, and stay tuned for the second episode featuring me, Doug, and our friend Jen Fortney.
Yes.
Say goodbye.
Bye-bye.